السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أهلا بكم إلى هذه الحلقة من برنامج من الداخل عبر الميادين. معكم زينب صفار. لعل الحكومات في الوقت الحاضر كما بات معلوما تفكر وتخطط لاحتمال حدوث موجات لاحقة من انتشار فيروس كورونا، ولعل الأوراق البيضاء أي التقارير الحكومية الرسمية التي تقدم معلومات أو مقترحات بشأن هذه الجائحة والتي نشرتها الإمبيريال كوليدج في لندن وكذلك معهد ماساتشوستس للتكنولوجيا MIT قد تعطي بعض الأدلة على كيفية رؤية الحكومات على نحو مبدئي للأشهر المقبلة، وتشير هذه الوثائق إلى استخدام موجات من إعادة الفتح أو العودة الاقتصادية تليها عملية الإغلاق للسيطرة على انتشار العدوى من الفيروس. يبدو أن الجداول الزمنية تختلف، ولكن على نحو عام تستدعي النماذج هذه دورة فتح لمدة شهر واحد ثم دورة إغلاق لمدة شهرين، والهدف سيكون السماح بزيادة العدوى كل شهرين في مناطق محددة من البلاد من أجل التقدم نحو زيادة مناعة القطيع بين عامة الشعب، ثم الإعلان عن الإغلاق الاقتصادي وتدابير الحجر الصحي بمجرد بلوغ انتشار هذه العدوى مستوى معينا محددا مسبقا. من الناحية النظرية هذه المقاربة من المقرر اعتمادها واستمرارها حتى تطوير لقاح. لذلك عندما يقول معهد ماساتشوستس للتكنولوجيا MIT نحن لن نعود إلى الوضع الطبيعي، لعل هذا هو المقصود بطرق أكثر من عمليات الإغلاق المتعددة. يطيب لنا أن نستقبل من العاصمة الماليزية كوالالمبور البروفيسور زامبري سيكاوي عميد كلية الطب في جامعة بوترا ماليزيا، المتخصص في الأمراض المعدية والميكروبيولوجيا الطبية وعلم الفيروسات. بروفيسور دكتور زامبري سيكاوي Senior Consultant Clinical and Microbiologist, Dean of the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences at University Putra, Malaysia. Welcome to Min al-Dakhil from the Inside, sir.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Pure pleasure to have you, sir. Well, Dr. Sikawi, the world has witnessed the outbreak of many viruses and epidemics. But what's before coronavirus is definitely not like what's afterwards. Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, says, quote, "We are not going back to normal." Sir, living dangerously in a virus world, are we at the losing end?
Right. When you talk about viruses, of course, there's so many of viruses in this world, and therefore living dangerously in a virus world is really relevant and amped. And as you have mentioned that we are now facing a pandemic that is never like we have faced before. And in fact, this is the worst that we have ever felt. And beyond this, everything will be different, and we have to embrace the new normal. So it's really that when you talk about are we on the losing end, is how human adapt to this, and how our efforts in combating the virus is very important. So that we try to survive within this virus world.
Now, Dr. Sikawi, you are actively involved in research, especially in multi-resistant bacteria and virology. What irregularities captured your attention while researching the coronavirus?
Well, coronavirus, in fact, actually comes from animals that we've seen recently. For humans, we have our own coronaviruses, and these coronaviruses are frequently causing just mild infections, and very rarely it causes death. But these particular coronaviruses are from animals. If you recall, years back, we have the SARS coronaviruses,
sure,
and also the MERS, COVID coronaviruses. Yeah, and now recently the COVID-19, which is caused by the SARS coronavirus 2. And you can see that the threat is very consistent. It has been very regular, and all this come from animals. So we need to go beyond a laboratory and try to explore where does these viruses come from, and tackle it from there.
Right. We will talk further about this zoonotic infections, but allow me to ask you here something about the COVID-19. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic reveals what is at stake and how fast an outbreak can spread when communities do not have the protective shield of immunization against an infectious disease. While still no vaccine exists yet for COVID-19, and also why globally this pandemic is overstretching the health systems and the healthcare workers, what can you tell us, sir, about the importance of vaccination for adults?
Yes, as you know, that when we say vaccine is associated with children, and not many people actually are aware that there is a need for vaccination for adults, and that's because maybe in many countries adult vaccination is something that they have to pay for it, instead of for children normally it's given free of charge. Well, for adults, it's very important. Normally vaccination in adult is based on risk. We have to, for example, in elderly, there are a risk of getting influenza or pneumonia, so we'll give them influenza vaccination as well as pneumococcal vaccination. So that is very general for adult vaccination.
Now, while respiratory infections are the commonest infections found in children, children and adolescents under the age of 20 are much less likely than adults to become infected by the new coronavirus, finds a large systematic review of journal articles, preprints and reports. How far is that accurate or correct, and why so?
Yeah, vast majority of COVID-19 happened in adults, and there were not many in children. Probably because the adult presented with symptoms, and therefore they go to hospitals or health facilities and they get confirmation frequently. There's not much data about infection in children. They do happen in children, but it's just that to what extent is the spread in children is still under investigation. And from what we found that, well, some children, they did not present with typical COVID-19 symptoms, but they present with some complications such as Kawasaki disease and so on, which is a bit different. So to explain why is there a difference in clinical manifestations between these two groups, a bit difficult at the moment, because we have not got enough data to really study on it. So the focus is at the moment is on adults. Fortunately, in children, it's not that detrimental, or the symptoms and all that is not that worrying. So now the health facilities and doctors are focusing more on adults, because they see that adults are the ones having severe infections, and of course some of them die.
Professor Zambri Sikawi, allow us to stop now, sir, for a short break, and then afterwards we're going to ask the big question: why is it still so difficult to develop, to have a drug or a vaccine for the coronavirus? But after the break. إذا فاصل قصير ونعود، لا تذهبوا بعيدا. أهلا بكم من جديد. Professor Dr. Zambri Sikawi, Dean of the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences at the University of Boutra, Malaysia. Welcome to من الداخل, from the inside. Welcome back, sir. Well, actually, a vaccine typically works by triggering the body's immune response which generates antibodies, as you said, that fend off a particular virus. But some viruses do not stimulate a protective antibody response, which means there's no guarantee that a vaccine can be developed for every disease. Sir, what makes it so difficult to find a vaccine, a drug, or a treatment for COVID-19?
Okay, when you talk about production of vaccine, you start from zero. It takes a very long time because you need to do some laboratory studies first and find out. The most challenging thing is to identify what the neutralizing antibodies are. Mm-hmm. So that is the first step that they need to do. So once they have identified, then they have to look into what is the corresponding antigen on the virus that really stimulates the antibody to produce this neutralizing antibody. So that takes a bit of time to really look into identification of the suitable antigen that we use into the vaccine. And once it has been identified, and we need to do it in an animal model. An animal model will take time, and put it on several experiments with neutral, we call control animals and things like that. That will take about 1 to 2 years. Mm-hmm. And later on, then if everything is all right, then we move to human studies. And human studies is a very big challenge, mm-hmm. Whereby we need to ensure that, first of all, the candidate vaccine is really safe for human. Mm-hmm. We don't want a vaccine which, instead of, apart from protecting the human from getting COVID-19, but it creates a lot of complications. Mm-hmm. So that happened in some vaccines previously. So therefore, we have to be really careful about this.
Sure.
And after ensuring the safety, and eventually in looking at whether it really works or not. Mm-hmm. And next come where we have to determine what is the best route of administration. Is it intramuscular or is it intranasal? And over there, and then we have to assess how long is the exposure. Is it 1 year or is it 5 years or lifelong? So a lot of things. That
it's a very long process, of course. It's a very long process. Sure. Yes. Now, so the COVID-19 pandemic is lasting perhaps longer than governments originally had anticipated. Malaysia's government enforced the movement control order. Do you perceive that going back to work is still risky? Do you think going to swimming is perilous? Do you think that restrictions on public activity as a whole will be lifted too quickly?
Yes. The Malaysian government has imposed the movement control order since March, and sure. Now it's almost 3 months, and we see there's a reduction in cases, but the idea is not to have 0 cases. The objective is actually to flatten the curve, as what the government has mentioned, is meaning that we try to maintain as low cases as possible so that our health system is not being overwhelmed by treating this. And now the cases has been consistently low at the moment. So inshallah, we see that everything will be okay. But to restrict public from doing the usual businesses is not also a good idea. We don't want that scenario whereby we can control the outbreak, but in terms of economy, is destruction to the economy of the country. So that is not a good thing as well.
So do you believe, sir, in herd immunity?
Well, it's very difficult to say at the moment with regard to COVID-19 herd immunity, simply because the data is not enough at the moment to support herd immunity. How many percent of the population got the the infection that can be declared as herd immunity? We are also not sure. Some say 60% or 70%. But currently, when you see data from other countries, is about 20% of the population has been exposed to the virus, meaning there's a big gap to really see whether herd immunity is really working or not.
Right.
In theory, it works, but in reality, we are not sure.
Right. Now, the Solidarity Trial, which is a research effort to test possible treatments for COVID-19, launched by the World Health Organization, WHO, will see Malaysia's involvement in an international effort to test several drugs in treating COVID-19. What are the challenges in this regard, sir?
Yes, now the trial is ongoing, but you heard in the news that some of the drugs, one of the drugs, the anti-malaria drug has been stopped at the moment because of some issues. To us, the challenges is always, to make sure that the patients are we don't know who is going to benefit from the trial, and what kind of complications they are facing. So it's really good that Malaysia has participated in this trial, because it will create a big number of patients, so that the data, at global level, will be big and is more reliable, rather than just focusing on Malaysia alone. Because we have, compared to some other countries, not so many cases, even though it's reached already 7,000, but other countries has gone beyond 20,000, 30,000.
Dr. Sikawi, so far today, now after almost 7 months, what are your speculations regarding coronavirus, and what are your recommendations? Tell us more about the efforts of your team in this sense as a whole, please.
Yes, when you look at the viruses, there are reports saying that the virus is actually weakening. I'm not surprised if the COVID-19 is weakening, because that is the nature of viruses. At initial stage, when they adapt to the new host, which is us, human, they will be more aggressive, and eventually they will, be less aggressive, and eventually become part of our viruses, human viruses, and maybe in future, 5 years, 10 years, it become causing a mild infection, just like the H1N1 influenza viruses, which happened more than 10 years ago.
Right.
So with regard to the effort done by Malaysia, now we are actively, what we are doing is we are still closing the borders to really minimize the imported cases coming in from international visitors, and also Malaysian coming from overseas, and also to actively looking for local transmission, and to break the chain before it gets more and more patients having COVID-19.
Right.
Another thing that we need to
contracting the COVID-19, sure.
Yes, contracting the COVID-19. Another component, the segment of population that we are really worried now is the migrant workers, our workers from overseas coming in, and because they live in a very crowded area, and they are a source of spread of COVID-19 at the moment. So we are looking into this. We are really focusing on these workers to make sure that they are okay. They're not being contracting COVID-19.
Allow me here to ask you about something which is also part of your field of expertise. Can you illustrate more on the threat of zoonotic infections? For example, leptospirosis, an emerging zoonotic disease in Malaysia, is an infectious bacterial disease that occurs in rodents, dogs, and other mammals, and can be transmitted to humans. What's the risk that animals will spread, for example, the coronavirus?
Well, now we are getting more and more zoonotic infections, simply because we are exposed to animals frequently. Now that the population has encroached into, because of the population expansion, they encroach into the the greens and the jungles and all that, and therefore the exposure to animal is increasing. And as you know, that coronaviruses if you look at literatures, many of them are actually coming from bats. So we have a lot of bats here in Malaysia. So if we are not careful, we can get exposure to the bats, and hopefully we will not see another COVID-19, the second version of COVID-19 spread from here. So therefore, it's very important that we try to minimize our contact with wildlife, but not so much on pets, but it's more like the wild animals in the jungle.
The rodents, yes.
The rodents, especially the rodents, yes, they are a big source of pathogens. You can have parasites, viruses, bacteria on rodents.
In 30 seconds, sir, allow me to ask you my last question. Autopsies have found the new coronavirus not only in the lungs, but also in the kidneys, in the heart, in the brain, and other organs, the eyes, for example. How does the coronavirus kill?
Right. When the origin is always the lungs, because it goes through the lungs, and when the defense system is helpless, and the viruses will be able to go to the other organs, and because of that, the body system try to produce more and more of this immune defensive system, and eventually that will causes the kidneys, the brain to eventually fail. We call it organ failure. And because of that, the viruses will be replicating, and more will be replicating and can be found in other organs.
Right. Professor Dr. Zambrey Sikawi, Dean of the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences at University Putra, Malaysia. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us and for your precious insights.
You're welcome.
والشكر لكم مشاهدينا الكرام على طيب المتابعة. للتفاعل أكثر تابعونا على صفحات السوشيال ميديا. من كل فريق عمل برنامج من كل الميادين، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.